Out to the Bishop's family, particularly his wife Mary, and to the leadership and members of the Church of Bangladesh at this time. May his soul rest in peace, good and faithful servant.
Thank you. Is the committee willing to accept that extra deliverance? Is the Assembly willing to accept that deliverance? Thank you. We move now to the last section of the report. It's the Presbytery Mission Planning Implementation Group, and it's going to be introduced by Dr. Karen Campbell.
Moderator Karen Campbell, number 496, convener of the Presbytery Mission Plan Implementation Group, known as PIMPIG, and vice convener of the FAPLT. Good news. The Church of Scotland's final Presbytery Mission Plan has been approved by the Presbytery of Lewis and the FAPLT. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell. We have an amendment to section 25. I'm going to ask the clerk to read the amendment.
Thank you, Moderator. This is the name of David Cameron. This is an amendment to the Act at section 34. Add at the end, subject to amending the Act by adding in section 34, after D, compiling parish profiles, the words E, vacancy procedure committees, and F, Presbytery clerk. So this is about an amendment to the Draft Act.
Are you willing to accept that, Dr. Campbell?
It's up to you. I mean, where's Marjorie? I mean, we'll accept.
You'll accept it, okay. Are you happy, if it's since accepted, David Cameron, not to speak to it? I'm sure you are.
Happy not to speak.
Thank
Delighted to note. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it acceptable to the Assembly? The amendment? And online. So we now turn to section 25 as amended. And I have Donald McCorkindale and Fiona Crawford, both guys who like legalese. Donald. Donald are online.
Thank you, Moderator. McCorkindale 375. The proposed Call, Election and Appointment Act defines vacancy as a charge without an inducted minister, but which has been granted permission to call. It'd be interesting to hear a wee bit more about why that bit of the definition, and given that, how are we to refer to a charge which is without an inducted minister, but has not yet been given permission to call? Thank you.
Is that a question, Principal Clerk, I can ask the mover of the amendment? Or is it, no, it's the deliverance itself, or Dr. Campbell? You can answer the question. Thank you, Dr. Campbell.
The Giving to Grow regulations were amended yesterday, and it makes explicit that vacancy allowance will only be paid where there is permission to call. When the Presbytery Mission Plan was passed in 2021, it was on the basis of 600 posts plus 60 vacancies. As of April 25, there are 314 vacancies. This is all about yesterday. It's about the church's ability to fund things. And at the moment, we are nowhere near 60 vacancies. So what can we afford? We must link ministry costs and mission planning. So congregations which have permission to call in this Act will get a vacancy allowance. But Donald McCorkindale was asking me, what do we call a congregation? Well, a congregation that I would say it's a congregation in vacancy that doesn't have permission to call. And it will encourage the changes and the adjustments to go through so we can get to vacancy, we can get these posts advertised, and we can move on. I hope that answers his question.
Thank you. And Fiona Crawford.
Fiona Crawford, 207. I'd really just like to push a little bit further on the question that Mr McCorkindale has just asked. Bearing in mind that we have congregations where we're working through adjustments, congregations could for some time be in this position of not having permission to call. And particularly if the congregation is waiting on another minister demitting or translating. And also, if I've understood correctly, we need to make a distinction between the congregations without a minister but with no permission to call and those who are vacant under the definition of that, as you've just said, Karen, that will not be subject to vacancy allowance. And so with this in mind, rather than have these congregations with quite a convoluted name, they are actually an entity in and of themselves. And I wonder if we could have a name that's a bit more succinct, because we're going to have to use it, and if that should perhaps be included in the Act for the sake of clarity.
Dr. Campbell?
I think, unless Mrs. Crawford has another suggestion, it's a congregation that is vacant without permission to call.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, thank you. We're now on section 25. I've no one else to speak. Is the Assembly willing to pass section 25? Thank you. And online. We have a new section 26, and I'll ask the clerk to read it and tell us who it comes from.
It's from Reverend Kip Chumba, and it is instruct the Faith Action Programme leadership team to work with the EDI group to develop measures aimed at preventing discrimination in the processes undertaken by nomination committees of vacant charges.
Thank you. Is this new delivered and seconded? Seconded. Thank you. I'm looking to the convener. Are you willing to accept it? Yes? If the proposer is willing... Yes? Given that they're willing to accept it, are you willing...
Moderator Kipchumba Cho, 2 to 4. I'm happy to accept, but just want to make a statement.
Yes?
Just to say that I brought this motion to this General Assembly because of the experiences of ministers from minority backgrounds who are currently applying for vacancies, seeking to be accepted, seeking a call to a vacant charge at the moment, or who have recently gone through the process. And so I would request that as the team addresses the issue, that the experiences of these ministers are taken into consideration, that you have an input from them in whatever measures you develop. Thank you.
Thank you. And can I simply say on behalf of the Assembly, we regret any form of discrimination at all within our church. And we pray that that may not be the experience of those who are seeking to fulfill God's call to be a minister. Thank you. The committee are willing to accept the new section 26. Are the Assembly willing to accept the new section 26? And online. Thank you. We go on to section 27. 26 in the print, sorry. Is the Assembly willing to accept 26 in the print? Thank you. And online, section 27, again, no names down. Is the Assembly willing to accept section 27? And online. Section 28, we have one name, Lorraine Gilroy wants to say something, a deacon. Lorraine, delighted to hear from deacons always, so come and speak.
Lorraine Gilroy, 249, deacon, rare breed, hoping not to become an extinct breed, the diaconate. I'll keep this short because I'm very conscious that people are tired and there's other business to be discussed. I was commissioned as a deaconess in 1988. The centenary of the diaconate was celebrated. And 37 years later, I'm still proud to serve the diaconate and was ordained last year by Dr. Shaw Patterson. I was very disappointed when I read the review that there were no positions for the diaconate. I'll leave it there because, thank God, a change has taken place. The church has listened and things have moved on. I was nurtured on the island of Bute by a great minister who was a man for all people. And he taught me that the ministry belongs to the whole people of God. And our centenary theme was variety of gifts, variety of service. And I thank God that my ministry to date, because there's life in the old dog yet, has involved parish ministry, healthcare ministry in the community, hospital and hospice setting, as a clinical nurse specialist in palliative care, and in the Royal Air Force. And people still ask, Lorraine, why are you not a real minister? Or why don't you have a dog collar? Well, God has always called me to be a diaconal minister, just as he has called Elaine and other people. And the church needs the ministry of the whole people of God in 2025. And I hope that the Church of Scotland, who has affirmed the role of the diaconate's not more important than any other ministry in the church. But I hope and pray that we don't go from being a rare breed to an extinct one. Thank you, moderator.
Thank you very much, Lorraine, and thank you for your advocacy and testimony about the importance of the diaconal ministry within our own church. Does the Assembly approve section 28? And online? Section 29? We're pausing now, and we're going to move. We have to deal with a petition, and we need to deal with that this evening. So we're going to call a petition, and we're going to invite the Reverend Donald Michael McInnes to come to the bar for that. And I'll ask the Principal Clerk just to explain how we handle this.
Thank you very much, moderator. The petition is in the Assembly papers, and it's at page 37, 38 and 39, and there's been written answers as well. This is a petition in the name of Mr. Donald Michael McInnes, and the first thing we wish, who's now appearing at the bar, is just first of all, the moderator will ask you if you're happy to receive the petition.
Right, as an Assembly, before we can continue, are you happy to receive the petition? Thank you. And online. Sorry? Mr. McInnes, you're very welcome to. You have 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, moderator, and can I thank the General Assembly for affording me the opportunity to be heard. I'm a parish minister in a priority area. I'm also an interim moderator in a priority area. I want to say at the very outset that this is not an attempt to revisit the Presbytery plan or to appeal stuff. It's actually to understand a principle to do with the priority area weighting and for the church to understand on the way forward. I will mention a couple of specific examples, but only by way of illustration, not by way of attacking or anything else. And the first thing I would want to say is that the General Assembly gave a double weighting to priority areas, and that to me means multiplication by 2. And we were given 0.5, as was our neighbouring charge. We're the 12th poorest parish in Scotland. Our neighbouring charge is the 16th poorest. We're both allocated 0.5 and under the normal system, but we were only offered 0.6 between us, so 0.3 each. So 0.5 times 2 doesn't come to 0.8, but that's what's happened. I know that educational standards have fallen in Scotland, but we should still be able to manage to multiply by 2. So I'll leave that there, and maybe someone give an explanation of why that happened, or if there's any reason for that. And the reason I'm saying that is because I don't believe when the General Assembly made the offer of a double weighting that they expected some of it to evaporate before it reached the priority area parishes. Now, way back in antiquity, when I still had black hair, the Church of Scotland had 52 priority area parishes. 39 of them were in Glasgow. And the policy then was you got an additional minister for a priority area parish. So Glasgow got 39 extra ministers. And there were some representations in the hope that they would just distribute these around the Presbytery. And we were given information in no uncertain terms from whichever body dealt with this in Edinburgh, I think it was, that this was absolutely not on. The very Reverend David Lunan was a Presbytery clerk at the time, and if I could paraphrase Neil Monroe's Parahandy, if David was here, he would tell you himself. So I want to know when this policy changed, and did the General Assembly, when it passed the Presbytery Plan Act and things, did they realise it was removing the benefit conferred on priority area parishes? Could I also thank the FAPLT committee for the gracious manner in which they responded to my petition. It was good that it was just put out dealing with the answers in the way they did, because this is not supposed to be confrontational. I'm simply looking to get the mood and the understanding of the Assembly. Said I would mention another group, another body. I would mention the Lodging House Mission. Now, when I was a student, I volunteered with Glasgow City Mission. We met lots of people who also used the service of the Lodging House Mission. And just to give a wee shout out to deacons, the Lodging House Mission in those days was managed by a deacon called Jock Steen, and in the East End of Glasgow he was just as famous as his illustrious counterpart who managed the Lisburn Lions and the Scottish national team. So the Diaconate have worked very well there, and the Lodging House Mission have done a huge good work there. But part of the priority area weighting went to that area, and it was not a priority area. When I worked in the city centre for almost a decade, I was told that despite working with exactly the same people with the greatest deprivation, homelessness, addiction, criminality, there was no additional support available for us because we were not a priority area. And the Faith Nurture Forum staff and the FAPLT talked about the work with poverty and not depriving poor areas of this. Surely the resources for a work like the Lodging House Mission, if they're going to be diverted from somewhere, should not be diverted from the poorest parishes, but from somewhere else. The convener of FAPLT is operating a big project in his own church called The Barn. It's an expensive project. They're not looking to try and take money from priority areas, and everyone would support these kind of works, but it's not a case of robbing Peter to pay Paul that's happening here. It's a case of robbing the widow of Nain to pay Paul, and that just is not a good thing. The Church has a fairly clear process using the SIMD to calculate which are its most needy parishes, and if that is going to be then bypassed, that creates a big problem going forward. There are various ways that any special projects can be funded, and we should find the resources for them without taking them from areas that the General Assembly has agreed to fund. I could personally identify many different projects that would be just as worthy and just as needy. So I want to ask the General Assembly to think about whether they wish to honour this double weighting and give it to priority areas, if we're going to go down the slippery slope of saying, well, it's fair game, and the next editions of Presbytery planning being rolled out will say, well, this is all up for grabs, we just need to find something more deserving than the priority area that's there. And a third alternative would be, if it's not going to be used in the area for which it was granted, that it should maybe go back into the national pot so that all the other presbyteries get a chance to bid for it as well. And the final thing I wanted to say was, in our presbytery, we have designated that only MDS posts can qualify for the priority area weighting. So we can transfer Ministry of Word and Sacrament to MDS, but we cannot transfer MDS to Ministry of Word and Sacrament. And in the two of our congregations in our cluster, we would have got 0.5 ministry, 0.5 priority area waiting, which would give you a whole person. But with the 0.8 and the fact that they're saying you can only use it for MDS work, we're ending up losing that. So I want to find the mood of the Assembly. I'm not a commissioner. I'm not entitled to move anything. I'm hoping that motions will come from the floor to deal with this. And as I said, it's not an attack on anyone. I recognise the pain and the difficulty of this process and respect the very hard work that's been done, especially in the Presbytery of Glasgow. And I've spent many hours myself, as have the various committees that deal with this. Thank you, Moderator.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the gracious way you brought that. Let me tell you the process. I'm going to ask Dr. Campbell in a minute if she will reply. There will then be an opportunity for questions, not comments, questions. And then after that, if anyone wishes to move a motion within the crave of the petition, we then have the opportunity to vote on that after with a final word from both the petitioner and from Dr. Campbell, and then we so decide. So we're at the point now where Dr. Campbell is going to respond, and after that there will be an opportunity for questions, if there are any.
I am not a lawyer, but my legal friends tell me that since 2010, the presumption has been that the posts which arise as a result of having priority areas in your presbytery can be distributed in the way that the presbytery feels is most appropriate to address priority areas and the poor, which is one of the secondary principles of the Presbytery Mission Planning Act. In our experience, Glasgow has done this. It has been explicit about it, as have other presbyteries who also have priority areas and areas of extreme poverty. And they've done it in full consultation with either the Faith Nurture Forum or the Faith Action Programme leadership team and our statistician who worked out the stats. If this petition succeeds, each presbytery with priority areas will have to look at plans again and may have to redistribute posts. The calculation is based on a double population. Every plan which has now been approved, and Glasgow was very clear about how and why they were distributing the posts in the way that they did. We recognise this distribution rightly lies with presbyteries and would oppose this petition on the grounds that we would wish to preserve the right of presbytery to determine in their areas how best to address priority areas and the poor and the ministry that they require. Moderator.
Thank you. We now have questions with no preamble and directed either to the petitioner or to Dr. Campbell. Dr. May.
Moderator, May 219. This does have a question mark right at the end of it. I don't know if this is a question or a point of order. This is essentially an appeal against the Presbytery of Glasgow's plan.
The principal clerk's shaking her head, so I'll let her answer that.
I'm asking why this isn't a procedural review under the Act.
Thank you, Moderator.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. May. We spent an inordinate amount of time in supporting this petitioner because of the right to ask a question. The question he has is about how presbyteries allocate their double population double population counting, which gives them additional posts. That is about applying it across the church. This has arisen for him in the context of the Presbytery of Glasgow. This is not about the Presbytery of Glasgow. This is about the principle of how presbyteries distribute the additional posts they get through the double population calculation. Do they have to apply it straight directly to a priority area parish, or can they apply it in a different form? So that is a very minor point, finite point, which is the heart of the question. So just to recap, It has always been the practice of, under Ministries' Council and so forth, that when they started to apply the double population, they would double the population in a priority area, and that would give more posts. So it was never a weighting like rural and island and everything else. It just increased the population, and then that enabled more posts to be allocated to that presbytery. But presbytery has always had the discretion to decide where those posts went. The petitioner is asking that that be changed, and that all presbyteries should appoint every additional post they get because of priority areas to priority area parishes.
Thank you. We have one other question here, which is Paul Middleton.
Middleton 416, although I think the clerk actually helped there, but when academics ask questions, they're not usually questions, but this is a genuine question for information so that I can help understand what's being asked. Is the petitioner, and it's good to see you, Donald, we were at university together, is the petitioner, the FAPLT response says that there were 12 extra posts, and 12 have actually been allocated to the priority areas, 11.5 in post and 0.5. Is the petitioner suggesting that actually the more than that should be allocated specifically, or were you doing this in particular with one particular parish, or the 0.5, which wasn't doubled? I wasn't quite clear whether you were arguing in terms of the complete numbers or whether that was in terms of the individual charges that you were talking about.
Can you hold your answer a minute to get the Principal Clerk to speak, and then you come in again?
I just want to make sure that we're clarifying, given what Dr. May has said, this is not about the specifics of the Glasgow Presbytery Mission Plan. It has finished all of its processes. It has been approved by the Presbytery, and all rights of review have been finished. It's over in terms of where we are at this precise moment. This is simply about the question of whether, in general, the policy that has been is whether discretion should be given to the Presbytery to allow them to allocate these additional posts in the way they want to allocate them.
So I think then, Donald, that question is out of order, and we won't ask for an answer to that because of the issue. I'm going to have one last question here. Richard Buckley, and then we'll see if anyone wishes to move a motion or whether we depart from this matter. So, Richard Buckley. Online?
Away, please. I'm not going to ask the question. The Principal Clerk answered. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So we've now finished the question section. In the petition, we now ask the petitioner cannot move a motion. He's not commissioner. So if there is anyone who wishes to move a motion within the crave of the petition, then would they please do so, or we move on? Christopher?
Moderator, Christopher Rowe, 170. I'm struggling to catch up with what we're doing. Sure. I'd been called out to the office. If it is possible to turn that petition to me, from having heard some of it, it's not just that we're only asking that priority area posts be allocated only in priority area parishes, but it was that it not be divided between two classes of ministry. That, to me, as I understood it, is the nub of the problem that's being addressed here.
Let's ask the Principal Clerk just to clarify, because for most of us it's a very complicated issue. We just want to try and get some clarity for everyone's sake, not least the petitioner.
Christopher, it is purely about the allocation of the additional posts that come as a result of priority areas and double population calculation. It's not about splitting, it's not about anything to do with that. It's about the discretion of a presbytery in their right to allocate those additional posts across the presbytery.
Then I would be happy to move a motion that says that presbyteries...
Sorry, Christopher. All we're seeking, it's not another motion. What we're seeking here is because Mr. McInnes is not a commissioner, he cannot move this. And it's moving this crave, what's in the petition, in writing, in the assembly paper.
Right, so are you wanting to move the crave?
I'm happy to move
Donald Michael's
That's legitimate. That's fine.
So Christopher is happy to move the
crave.
The crave. Excellent.
Is that seconded? Okay. This is the point if anyone wants to add anything in terms of a comment before we get a summing up. Okay, I'm going to then move and ask, first of all, the petitioner, if there's anything finally to add, and then Dr. Campbell, and then we'll have a vote. Very simply, it will be an electronic vote on whether we grant the crave. Sorry? Right, okay. The voting will be more... Donald, anything to add?
Yes, the one thing I wanted to say was this is for going forward the principle. I'm not terribly troubled by amending the plans that as they exist at the moment, but my concern is that when the next plan is rolled out, which is be starting very soon, that this will be seen as fair game and just to take all the priority area weightings and use elsewhere. So it's a principle, rather, I'm not looking for them to redo the Presbytery plans and to reallocate. I'm simply looking for them to agree the principle that we preserve priority area weighting, for the want of a better word, for the priority areas. And can I also thank the Principal Clerk, our Deputy, and Angus Matheson for the amount of time they gave me. I meant to do that at the beginning. Thank you so much for all the help you gave and putting up with me shouting at you for about an hour on the phone. So thank you very much. Okay, that's all I've got to say. Thank you, Moderator.
Thank you that your reply gives me a great sense of relief that we're not going back to undo the work of the last 4 years. Dr. Campbell.
Moderator, you've got no idea how glad I am about hearing that. All I would say to the General Assembly is that I would refer back to what the Principal Clerk has very clearly said and very eloquently told us what the situation is, and I will leave it to the General Assembly to decide.
Right. Pardon? We're putting a motion up on the screen. Are we coming to... I'll ask the Principal Clerk to explain the voting procedure, but not which way you should vote. But it's not that, it's on the screen, is it? Okay. Yes, it's good. We're just trying to get the wording sorted and then we'll read it out. But there's just a linguistic debate going on. No, you stay up there. We should ask Karen Gillen to come and teach us a song from the Big Sing in advance while we're waiting. Is this what we're going for? Okay?
Everyone happy? Neil, happy?
Is there any debate?
Right, Principal Clerk, tell us what we're voting on, and then I'll ask if you could tell us how we vote.
Okay, right. Did we just vote?
No, we have not voted.
We're just about to vote.
We were just about to vote.
Right. But there's no debate. No one has anything to say.
No one has asked to speak, so that's we're moving on. We've had closing statements. We're all ready.
We're about to move to the
votes. Yes. No, not according to a petition. It has to be within.
It's a petition.
Yeah, the motion can't be amended, so that's it.
Oh, come on, guys.
Points of order are also in order?
Moderator, just so the Assembly is clear, I wonder if the Clerk could advise, if that were to pass, it would require the amendment of the current plans, which is not what the petitioner said. And I just wondered that the clerk might clarify that.
Thank you, Dr. May. It might, but I think it's right. The motion before you that has been properly moved instruct presbyteries to deploy their allocation of priority area posts only in priority area parishes, and if required, to amend their mission plans by the 31st of December 2025 to reflect this. So, yeah.
Okay, so we either vote for the crave or we vote against it, and we take it electronically. Can you guide? Yes? Thank you, Dr. Bartley.
Grant Barclay, 152. I'm terribly sorry, moderator, to intrude. I simply wanted to ask whether questions were in order at this point, hoping that questions might always be in order.
Dr. Barclay, I will allow you a question, but it's not in order, but you may ask it.
And it was really to do with the terms of the...
Yes.
And I wonder if that might be displayed on the screen, because my question relates to the statement to deploy only in priority area parishes. So my question, which is quite specific, and you can understand why, as the clerk in Glasgow, I'm asking this, whether deployment only in priority area parishes could reasonably be understood to include the engagement of someone acting in a priority area supervisory post. And those who have read the papers will understand that the 0.5 makes all the difference in Glasgow's case, and really all the difference between us, I imagine, having to redraft our plan and not, and it would be the latter course of action which might be slightly more preferable to me.
Who answers that?
Perhaps it would be helpful if all the lawyers left the room. Can you answer that question, Dr. Campbell? I'm glad I'm retiring.
Moderator, I think we'd have to take advice from the clerk.
I do so daily, but
If the Assembly, if moderator, are you happy for me to say something?
more than happy, delighted.
One of those wretched legal people. Anyway, so two things to say. What we think is that it would include somebody that was employed, supervised, who was working in a priority area parish. Now, let's remember that this is really is about the discretion to do this and not to do it. This is taking away that discretion. That's ultimately what that's going to happen. And also, one needs to remember, of course, that presbyteries have the right to also define parish boundaries. I might have added more confusion, but I'm just adding that in.
I don't think I want to open up this debate again. We've had the final comment. I think we're going to take a vote on this, and I'm going to ask if you would instruct us, please.
Gosh, it's complicated, but for or against is...
What is it, a point of order? Tell me.
Savage, Calpinold and Goebbels in Glasgow were being asked to make a decision on an extremely complicated thing at 10 to 6 at night, which none of us fully understand, even the folks at the front don't seem to be completely clear on. We really need explanation. We need a proper debate. We can't just do this on the hoof at this time of night after a whole day debating complicated things. This came rather out of the blue, and I think that it shouldn't be debated. It should be held over to tomorrow.
I'll invite the Principal Clerk to respond.
Mr. Davidge, I appreciate the hour of the day, but this petition and written answers have been in the Assembly papers for the last few weeks. Everybody has been on notice of this. I cannot make the order of proceedings work to a timetable because, let's face it, we all love to talk. And I utterly understand. I've sat there many, many times in here, late, etc., and I appreciate that. It is a nuanced point, but it is the principle that I have spoken about. The principle of whether presbyteries, this is the other side of it, whether presbyteries, which they've always had the discretion to do that allocation, have a discretion as to where they apply their priority areas, additional posts. That's what I've said is the principle that Mr. McInnes was bringing to this Assembly. What this is asking is basically stop that. Stop the discretion. And it's saying to deploy and then make it fixed. It's that either or. Is that okay, Peter? Thank you very much for your grace.
Thank you, and our vote.
Right. On the hub, you have your voting buttons for or against. If you are in the hall, button 1 for, button 2 against, and the vote is now open.
Open falls.
5 seconds.
Do the extra one or not tonight? Yeah.
The vote is now closed.
Thank you. They're voted for the petition 106 votes. They're voted against 156 votes. The petition therefore falls, and we thank the petitioner for the way he brought that matter to us today and continued to remember priority areas in our heart as a concern for the poor. Thank you for that.